Well, good evening, Arbjorn.
Good evening, Nicholas.
Well, the Trees Project maybe is a project about trees, plants, forestry, and the relationship that modern culture and humans have with them. But it is also an opportunity to take a look around the world and address issues that may not have anything to do with trees, but have to do with life and the fertility of the earth and the planet we live on and we like to heart. Well, Iceland is a land of contrasts, is a land of fire and ice, where vast lava fields stretch alongside growing forests and where the raw power of nature constantly reshapes the landscape. This island, sculptured by volcanic eruption and glacial forces, has long been defined by its extreme geological activity. Yet beneath the towering volcanoes you have and barren lava plains, a quieter, slower transformation is take place. One that speaks to resilience, renewal, and the delicate balance between humans and nature. In this discussion, we choose you to speak with you, Arbjorn Olafson, the CEO of GEOCAMP and the GeoSchool organization. GeoCamp is the international study tours for students and teachers, and GeoSchool is the Icelandic Center for STEM education. You will explain what exactly is this. I don't want to go further to your identity. We think that they are the most, you are the most relevant person to speak about nature and climate crisis. You are experts, ecologists, you love to be near the nature and work on it. We will explore with you the challenges and hopes surrounding Iceland's ecological phenomena. Well, we will discuss about volcanoes and eruption, but also we will approach the theme. How does the country shaped by volcanic eruptions reintroduce trees into its soil? What role do the forest play in Iceland's ecological future? And how can a balance can be between preserving the island's dramatic landscapes and fostering sustainable environmental growth? Okay, let's start. I will make the first question, which is my personal question. Iceland is one of the most volcanically active places on Earth. How have past eruptions shaped both the physical landscape and human history in Iceland?
Well, thank you for a wonderful introduction, Nicholas. And it seems like you were answering some of the questions yourself there. Your knowledge of Iceland is getting more by every year. So I'm very happy to hear your kind words about Iceland and our background, but also your interest in the island itself. Well, very basically, regarding volcanoes. It's very simple. Iceland wouldn't be here if not for volcanoes. So we owe our existence as a country to the volcanic forces.
Hmm.
Iceland is placed on top of a magma plume that is constantly feeding lava to the surface. We have, on average, a volcanic eruption every 2 years. For the past 2 years, it has been more frequent because we have entered a new volcanic era in the Reykjanes Peninsula where we're having an eruption on average every 2 months. But at the same time, Iceland is splitting apart. We are located on top of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge with the Eurasian tectonic plate on one side and the North American plate on the other side. And it's ripping apart the country by 2.5 centimeters every year. So with the tectonic plate movements and the volcanic eruptions, the island is continuously growing. Now, regarding your uh, focus on trees and vegetation and ecology and the barrenness of Iceland. It is quite interesting because for Icelanders, trees are quite rare, or seeing trees. We do have trees in Iceland, but uh, very few forests. And the native tree of Iceland is the birch, and birch does not grow to be that large. So when we travel mainland Europe, we are quite fascinated by vast expansions of forestry or forests. While at the same time, tourists come to Iceland and they go, "Oh, look at how barren and open the landscape is." So it's quite interesting that you're turning to us to learn about trees, but what we can probably tell you more about is how we're reintroducing trees into our native landscapes.
Okay. And how does volcanic activity impact Iceland's renewable energy production, particularly geothermal energy? Are there risks to infrastructures, or do eruptions create new energy opportunities?
That's a good question. So Iceland was settled around 830 um, after Christ, by Norsemen, by Nordic Vikings. And since settlement, the people living on the island have utilized geothermal energy. Now, geothermal is found all over the world, but it's particularly visible in areas of volcanic activity where geothermal surface pools are quite regular and quite easily found. But for the first 1,000 years, the people living in Iceland used geothermal for bathing, for cooking, and for washing clothes. It was only after 1930s or in the 1930s that we started using geothermal for spatial heating, where the geothermal water was pumped into residential buildings, hospital, school, and swimming pool in Reykjavik. And systematically, since then, Iceland has started utilizing more and more of our own renewable energy uh, resources. And what is interesting is to see how closely the development of Iceland as an economically as a prosperous nation has correlated with increased use of our own energy sources. Because before World War II, we were importing coal and oil for house heating. And for a microeconomy like Iceland, it was very expensive. It still is very expensive. So when you are able to heat your houses with your own energy sources and renewable energy sources, for that matter, it is quite it is quite important for the economical stability of the island. So without volcanoes, without the access to geothermal heat, we probably wouldn't be in the place where we are today, being one of the most prosperous nations in the world. And just to add, Iceland now has the highest use of renewable energy sources of any country in the world, where 86% of our primary energy use comes from renewable energy sources, geothermal and hydroelectric.
Okay.
And with 90% of all homes in Iceland heated with geothermal.
Okay. And there is glaciers also with these the glaciers that you have receding due to the climate change. What role
Yes.
do volcanic eruptions play in accelerating or mitigating glacial melt?
Well, there are a few examples. One of it is quite interesting because, well, Iceland, we draw our name from ice. We do have Europe's largest glacier, Vatnajökull, We are quite. I think it's 16% of our total
Surface of
land
the island.
surface
Okay.
is covered by
By
glaciers.
glaciers.
Um, and when the glaciers recede, when they diminish, um, you have um, you have a very heavy load being lifted off the surface.
Yeah.
And what means is what happens is when the surface rises, it gives more or easier access for the magma to extrude
Uh-huh.
to the surface. So when the land rises, it will increase volcanic eruptions or the frequency. This is one thing. Another part where volcanoes are shaping the the glaciers of Iceland is that our main volcanic system, or one of our main volcanic systems, and where the magma plume, where the center of the magma plume is situated, is underneath Vatnajökull Glacier. So it's one of our most active volcanic areas, and this is underneath a glacier that reaches, well, the highest 2,700 meters. So a very thick layer of ice. So whenever this area erupts, first of all, you get a huge ash cloud, like what happened in 2010 in Eyjafjallajökull, when we ruined the vacation of many Europeans
Hmm.
because of grounded aircraft. But what also happens is that we have glacial flooding. So you can imagine when you have a heat source underneath a glacier, you have a lot of melting water, and that melted water has to go somewhere. So it actually lifts up the ice cap and pushes through down to the lowlands, and it creates very, very big flooding. And these floods have taken away some of our forests uh, in historical times. But also, these floods are ruin infrastructure, the roads and bridges. They have not claimed lives yet, not in recent history, but they do happen quite frequently. And back in 1997, when we had one of the large eruptions in Vatnajökull, we had the biggest river on Earth for a few days, and that's just glacial flooding water that was rushing down towards the ocean.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Well, I have been in Iceland because of had a project that GEOCAMP was the coordinator there, and I see and I suspect that there are many environmental challenges. Let's speak about the environmental challenges take place in Iceland in order to protect fragile
Mm.
ecosystem that you described.
Yeah, so when the settlers came in the ninth century, um, they reported back to Norway that Iceland was covered in a forest. Well, partly they did that because they wanted to attract more people to come to Iceland. But it is estimated that between a quarter of the nation of the country and up to 40% of the country was actually covered in a forest at the
Okay.
time of settlement,
Yeah.
which is a stark contrast to what is in Iceland today, where only about 2% of the total area is forested. So, um, so we lost the majority of our vegetation and forests, and that is there are many reasons for this. Overgrazing is one reason. Um More frequent eruptions and glacier flooding is one reason. But probably and use of people. People were using firewood for house heating. but probably the biggest impact was lower temperatures. So the average temperature in Iceland was actually higher in the 9th century than it is today, even though we're approaching it quite rapidly now. So the majority of forest and a lot of vegetation was destroyed. What happened when you lose vegetation is that you're also losing the potential to hold on to topsoil. And topsoil, so the top layer of soil or earth is quite important. Now we live in a lava country built on basalt, and its topsoil is very scarce. And not only that, you do have a lot of wind erosion.
Uh-huh.
So what has been happening, and up until recently, was that a big part of Iceland's topsoil was being blown out into the ocean every year. We were losing more and more vegetation. So systematically, we had to go in and try to change this development. And this started probably about 40, 50 years ago when they introduced the Alaska lupine into the Icelandic ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now, what the Alaska lupine does, it's a very beautiful plant. It can grow anywhere. It spreads really fast, has very deep roots that cling to all surfaces.
Oh.
And very rapidly, this plant spread out, especially in the southern part of Iceland. And it helped bind the topsoil to create an ecosystem or environment to be able to introduce other plants and native plants like the birch into these areas. So this has been a very systematic change in the landscape, alongside with farmers getting subsidies for planting trees. So we have now tree farmers. We have farmers that are dedicated to planting and harvesting wood. So there has been a conscious revival of the vegetation in Iceland.
Okay. Okay, yes.
It's a very long answer to a very short
It's okay.
and precise question.
It's okay. Very analytical and very explained. Yes, I understand some things, and I want to ask, what role do the native and non-native tree species play in Iceland's ecosystem, and which species are most commonly planted?
Mm. Now they are starting to change a little bit, because you have Puritans that say, well, we should only plant the native trees, but the native trees were only birch. That was the tree that were the trees that were here at the time of settlement. Other trees like fir trees and pine and so forth, they have been introduced later. But they are also the ones that are growing faster. So you have the discussion of what type of trees are most beneficial for the environment or the ecological system of the island. But just yesterday, I read a new article about that, actually just reclaiming wetlands in Iceland is actually contributing far more to spurring or contributing against CO2 in the atmosphere than planting trees. So it is not only a question of introducing vegetation, but also taking care of the vegetation that we already have,
Yes.
including the wetlands.
Indeed, yes. And this unique climate you have and the volcanic soil, how does this climate and the soil affect trees growth and forest sustainability, if we can say something like that.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned previously, obviously we do have with warmer weather, we have uh, uh, more. I wouldn't say. I mean, trees and vegetation in general just grows very slowly in Iceland. It's not only the temperature; it's also the season is very short.
Yeah.
So we do have challenges when it comes to outdoor plant growth. Obviously, when you have so much geothermal energy, we tend to do most of our growing indoors. Um, so in greenhouses, and that's how we get to be sustainable in production of vegetables and fruit in Iceland. But regarding climate change, I mean, we do find well, first of all, we see that vegetation is starting in areas that have been barren for centuries, especially on the southeast coast and in the highlands of the country. This is also what happens when you have retreating glaciers. Suddenly, you have uh, more environment that is getting available for vegetation. So we're actually seeing a slow spread of vegetation in Iceland, which is um, both because of human impact, but also because of warmer weather. And just within a lifetime of my wife, who's 40 years old, and she has seen changes in her region on the southeast coast, where small forests have started growing in the middle of black sands, and this is totally from well, seeding. These are not man-made forests. Well, man-made in the sense that we are contributing to climate change.
And yes, well, GEOCAMP, your organization works at the intersection of geoscience, education, and sustainability. How does your organization help the audience, the students, researchers understand the impact of Iceland's volcanic landscape on the general environment?
Yeah, this is interesting, Nicholas, because I've been thinking about this as well. Because I mean, you know this just as well as I do, that education is the best way and the only way to combat crisis like this.
Right.
With people getting better education, more education. Because listen, I have kids in school that are being told that temperatures are rising by 1 degree Celsius. This doesn't mean anything to them. How can you put this into context? But if you take a group of students and you put them in front of a glacier and you say, last year, this glacier was 15 meters further or bigger, um, and the children hear the cracks in the ice and they see the the uh, the ice melting. When you take them into nature and you put them in situations where their uh, their own neighborhood, their own backyard is changing, and it doesn't. It's not only glaciers. I mean, you can do it in in coastal countries where you see rising oceans, and you can do it in warmer countries where you see more spread of wildfire. If you take them into the places, if you use your country as an active classroom, I think children are getting, and not only children, also teachers and grown-ups, um, are getting a better chance to become aware of the actual effects of 1 degree Celsius more in temperature.
Indeed, amazing, amazing. Okay, and beyond education, how does your organization, GEOCAMP, contribute to climate awareness and response, particularly in areas like conservation, research, and community resilience?
Mm. Well, we have just started a cooperation with the Icelandic Search and Rescue, which is a volunteer organization, including thousands of people all over the country. And Iceland doesn't have an army, so whenever we are faced with some sort of a disaster, the volunteers of the Icelandic Search and Rescue are sent to help out. They're also sent out when tourists get lost on the Icelandic roads or in the mountains to find them. But one of the things that the Icelandic Search and Rescue have been doing throughout the years is planting trees. So you can support the volunteer organizations by paying some money, and they will plant trees instead. So we started thinking, well, we are getting hundreds of students from abroad every year. We're talking about climate changes and environmental impact and so and so. But we're also part of the problem because we are getting students to Iceland.
Excuse me? We're
part of the problem because we are receiving international student groups. Right. So what can we do to compensate? So we started thinking, well, maybe we should, we could plant trees for each student that arrives. But we could do it through the Icelandic Search and Rescue. So we do it through both community engagement. We're supporting the volunteer organizations, but we're also contributing to diminish or minimizing the CO2 footprint, the carbon footprint of the travelers, so the students that arrive to GEOCAMP. So this is one of the initiatives that we are engaged in. Another thing that is quite important to us is regenerative tourism, because now it's not only a question of not leaving a footprint, not leaving a carbon footprint, but leaving a positive footprint. So we are involved in a few development projects, including with the Icelandic Tourism Cluster, that are focusing on how to create a more responsible and aware traveler. So whenever you're traveling, how can you not only diminish your carbon footprint, but also leave a positive impact in the country that you're visiting? Mm-hmm. And these can be in so many different ways. I mean, planting trees is one thing, but social outreach or helping to clean beaches I mean, there are so many different ways that you can contribute to the places that you are visiting. So this is one of the things or one of the many things that we are involved with.
Yeah, that's right.
A new project, Nicholas, for us.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, I have been in Iceland, but only in Reykjavik because of the project that I mentioned before. And now, after our discussion, I want to come again and stay about 10 days, not 5 days that I have been there last time. And I didn't discover all the other island, which is not very big. I can discover in 3 days, for example. But I hope that in my short life, I will manage to do that.
Well, by now you know half the country, Nicholas. It's we're so few.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Arbjorn, thank you very much for this conversation, for this discussion that we have it. It was a pleasure for me, not only very fruitful discussion about the information that you give us, but also it was a pleasure for me to speak with you. Be well.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, my friend.
Kisses to your father, to your mother, to your wife, and all the friends that we have there.
I sure will. I will be kissing all day tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.